Saddle up your horses.
We're kicking it back old school. We're kicking it back mainly Broncos old school, at least for a little bit. Jordan and Brandon will hop in just a little bit. It is Brandon. Brandon will be joining, as we said. Jordan will join. It is Maddie and myself. We're kicking it old school, just like when the mainly Broncos was getting started in the very beginning, in the Periscope days. Doing a mainly Broncos show, all during the first round of the draft. Highly do not recommend. But, it was a blast, and of course, Maddie is the one who's here. How you doing, bud? You doing good?
I'm good. You're just PTSD now, thinking about taking Jerry Jeudy over CeeDee Lamb, over Justin Jefferson, over T. Higgins, some of those guys in that class, but pretty fun time to start this podcast. Certainly has been a journey to get up to this point, with us being the number 1 seed in the AFC, best record in the NFL, ready to potentially hold serve at home, get back to the AFC Championship game, face either a historical foe or somebody we've seen already this year. If we do get past Superman and Josh Allen there, a lot to talk about with the game, but it's kind of dope to see where we're at now and to consider where we were when this started quite some time ago, honestly. And we're doing it, kicking it old school with the OGs. That's and right. Then the plus one to make it free. Right. Brandon Miller, PO, what's going on, brother?
What's up, gents? Sorry I'm like super late. Just had to take care of my girlfriend. She's sick, and we had to handle some stuff.
Oh, okay. So that's the better way. I like took care of my girlfriend. I was like, which way is this going? Oh, okay.
Well, okay. I was actually originally sick, and then ended up passing it to her, unfortunately. So I felt extra guilty.
How are you feeling now? You feeling a little better?
Well, the more I talk, the more my voice hates me in protests. But I'm feeling like 98% better. Like it's 90%, it's 98% gone. But I just have a lingering cough that refuses to go away, and then
I know that feeling.
It just my voice is not.
Since this is a video podcast, maybe you can just maybe your segment can be interpretive dance instead of having to speak.
You don't want the super gravelly radio voice? I feel like that worked perfectly.
Just maybe reenacting the Napoleon Dynamite dance.
I don't think anyone can reenact that, man. It was too perfect the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's going to be an absolute blast. Obviously, there's a lot, I think, in terms of this game and just the playoffs in general that I think is exciting and actually should be exciting. Whether you're a Bronco fan and just strictly an NFL fan, this has got to be an exciting time for everyone, because now, with the Eagles losing last weekend, we are officially going to get a brand new Super Bowl in terms of representation and teams that have been in a Super Bowl. Obviously, if the Patriots or the Broncos get there, it's been past representation, but they haven't been there in a long time. And so it's going to be one where it's going to be a little bit enjoyable. And frankly, I would argue this is going to be one of, if not the most enjoyable Super Bowls that I can think of, maybe since that Los Angeles Rams and Cincinnati Bengals Super Bowl that was just ended up being a really good Super Bowl, actually one of the best Super Bowls of all time. And yeah, it's going to be quite enjoyable. And I would venture to guess, probably because of Bronco fans and by the nature of who Josh Allen is, that say something were to happen in this game, between the Broncos and Bills, I have to believe that at least more than half of the Bronco fans will be rooting for the Bills and rooting for Josh Allen to finally get that monkey off his back and get his Super Bowl.
I hate to beat a dead horse, but if it doesn't happen this year, I'm not sure. Not sure.
Yeah.
Let's not say that.
Not sure what else
expression
needs to happen, but it's not going to happen because the Broncos are going to beat them when they come to
on-
Maui.
Let's retire that expression on a Broncos podcast.
Which one?
Beating four-legged animal.
Hey,
That's
PETA is not on my front door yet. So I think we're okay. But yeah, it's all right though. But also true, I guess, because what was the thing that they came out with? It's the year of the horse.
Is that what they said 2026 is?
That's what they said is 2026 is the year of the horse.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No comment.
All right. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a great playoff weekend, great playoff environment. Yeah, so I'm very excited about it. Obviously, this is gonna be it's the turning of the tide, if you will. In the AFC, that's kind of like the best way I could probably say it. And we finally have meaningful football, meaningful Bronco football in the playoffs now. No more wild card round. We can finally get into the divisional round. I will say this. We'll dive a little bit into the wild card round. We'll dive into that, of course. But obviously we will be doing a Bills. We will be doing a Bills preview, Bills Bronco preview. Thanks for joining us, Jordan. I realized that the Miami Hurricanes are in the national championship, so I was just hoping you weren't prematurely getting excited for the fact of the Hurricanes winning the Natty.
Dude,
Yeah,
actually, real quick, when your camera just popped up on the bottom of my screen, I didn't really pay super close attention. I thought you were smoking a cigar. Because you were had your fingers to your mouth, and I was like, "Oh, this guy is getting into it."
I mean,
respect. So
things
I'm
go a
surprised.
certain way this weekend, and on Monday, I'm sure he will be having that cigar life next
Sorry,
week.
Yeah.
go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, I may not remember anything. But yeah, it was my dad's birthday today, so I had to have his birthday dinner and all that. And then came back home, and here I am, just still trying to get a ticket.
That was wild. Give. He's in our chat. I was just gonna say, give Brandon a bit of an idea, maybe as far as maybe the amount of money you saved, and then how many money is the actual game is going for, and then it's wild to me that you'll be actually spending 4K on something when you kind of set out a decent amount of money already, and obviously that's not even counting parking.
Yeah,
I only saw the parking price.
Good thing that the prices are dropping though. So, they're not dropping a lot, but they're dropping. So I'm hoping by Sunday, even probably Monday, if I'm being honest, I'll have a clearer picture if I'm going. But I'm remaining positive. I do think they drop. So
wasn't parking like $700?
Yeah, parking is $700, and that is because I know a lot of people don't know, but that $700 is actually for a parking lot that is outside the stadium. If you want to park inside the stadium, that's $1,200. So
that's wild.
Yeah, if I do go though, I am getting dropped off and then picked up. I already have that figured out. But yeah, I'm remaining positive that it continues to drop into the budget that I've committed to. So I'm keeping my hopes up.
Well, the good news is, if it doesn't happen, there's a Super Bowl window that could open up if the Broncos go to the Super Bowl.
That is true. That is true.
Or you just, why not both?
Yeah, I wish.
Debt is just future you problems anyway.
That's true.
So,
So before we dive into this Broncos and Bills preview, let's recap the weekend that was, which was a wild card weekend. And I got to say, the NFL wild card weekend, specifically that last one, was to, as Maddie just emoted over there in the bottom left. It was
Absolute cinema.
It was absolute cinema. I mean, it did seem kind of fitting that the last two games would be the one where we would get like victors by more than 2 scores. You know, and of all the games, I will say that of all the games that probably lended itself to being a little bit of a blowout, it was fitting it was going to end up being the last one. The one that I don't think everybody expected to be 2 scores or more was the Patriots and Chargers game.
That's the Chargers team that I wanted us to play because they looked atrocious. But why did they had to ruin it? They had to ruin a great wild card weekend right at the end of with an actual stinker. But the rest of them were crazy. I actually thought that the Panthers were going to pull it off again and beat the Rams for the second time this season, which would have been insane. I thought that was going to be the boring game, but I was wrong.
It obviously was not. And by the way, before I hear what you guys are going to say, Jordan and Maddie, I owe the Panthers an apology because I got clowned a little bit in the last show where I said they're just there to collect a participation trophy. This rematch isn't going to really end well. You know, it's pretty evident. I mean, obviously the Rams ended up winning the game, but the Panthers had their number this year. And more importantly, kudos to Bryce Young. Kudos to Bryce Young for really playing in the biggest moment and turning back the clock just a little bit and playing like Bama Bryce.
Wasn't it Seattle that had a losing record but won their division and ended up beating the Saints in the playoffs? Was that the Marshawn, the Quake?
Yeah, it was.
Quake?
7-9 record at the time.
So they almost put that thing down, flipped it, and reversed it division-wise with that NFC South, NFC West situation. So, yeah, man, they're a team on the rise. Bryce Young, I think, certainly deserves that next deal because what else really are they going to do? But they've got a lot going on in Carolina. Certainly, like their record, they didn't finish the way they wanted to. The record wasn't the best, but man, like people didn't give them a chance, myself included, to even compete in the division, much less win the thing. So
and it was a bad division too. I mean,
props to them, yeah. But pretty dope, and maybe the Rams aren't who we thought they were.
Yeah.
Yep, I have the Rams. I think in the prediction show we had earlier in the season, I think I had the Rams winning it all. But
I just know mine completely went out the window because I had Eagles and Ravens. So that thing.
Yeah, that's and the Eagles are never met a team that wins so much but has so much problems. The game that I was very surprised by was the Bears game. Bears game was that was a good game. It was.
Dude, that dot on 4th down by Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
To what was it? Adunze on the side, the left sideline, just with a Jordan symbol, even just bro.
That was nuts. That was a nutty throw.
How much of a flashback did that give you, Maddie, to the Red River shootout?
I mean,
and him actually, ironically enough, hitting Marvin Mims in the corner of that end zone.
Dude, I've say what you want about his personality and how he carries himself. That's fine, but the dude's an absolute baller.
Yeah.
And Ben Johnson going there unlocking him, he is going to be a problem. This Bears team is not just a flash in the pan. They will be back regardless of what happens from here on out.
Mm-hmm. Brandon?
Man, that game was crazy. I didn't get to see all of it. or actually even most of it, but because I didn't catch the beginning, all I know was I checked the score. I think it was like it wasn't quite halftime, but there wasn't that much time left in the second quarter, and I think Caleb Williams had like 78 yards passing or something, and I was like, oh, they're losing this one. Like this is another one of those kind of like weird stinker Caleb Williams game. Kind of just can't do anything at all. And then I saw a little bit in like the third quarter, and I was like, okay, well, they're starting to kind of turn around, but I definitely didn't think they were going to win. And then I had to turn the game off, and I came back to it like a couple hours after the game finished, and I looked the score back up again, and I was like, oh, they won. That was
How much did that feel like a Bronco game of 2025?
That's exactly what I was going to say. That has what is like the most Broncos that team could have possibly done.
Yeah.
Could have like possibly played that game because, and this kind of seems like the Bears, the Broncos are on this like weirdly similar
They are
path across divisions of like, looking terrible for the first three quarters, somehow turning it on and looking absolutely unstoppable in the fourth quarter. Having a defense that gives up so many big plays, it's kind of ridiculous. After also like being really good at points in the year, with like the Broncos being a team that has a defense that just like shuts you down, and the Bears having a defense that somehow leads the league in takeaways. I think they still do, but for some reason, just like they both give up insane amounts of plays, and they also both look, especially have a quarterback that looks just bad for like three quarters, and then somehow turns it on at the very end and is able to make like the most ridiculous comeback win possible. And I actually think I saw this statistic somewhere that the Bears even like beat the Broncos in terms of teams that have had the most amount of time playing without a lead, or like the most snaps, offensive snaps without a lead or something. I don't remember the exact stat, but I just heard someone talking about it, and I was like, oh, the Broncos are definitely number one on that list. And it was not. It was the Bears. So yeah, just kind of that weird parallel between, wouldn't it be funny if they both went in the Super Bowl? I did that to actually happen, and then it looks like the most just boring watching paint dry. You watch basically it's like picture an Eagles game for the first three quarters, and then it just they play with their hair on fire, and it's an absolute shootout, and it comes down to the wire, and it's like a nail biting, like 30-34 victory or something. I don't know. That'd be crazy. But that would be fun. Yeah,
it would. May not necessarily do well for the initial viewers of the Super Bowl. But, for the ending, I would venture to guess that thing's going to be skyrocketing if that was the case. Well, we say all of that to result in the Broncos versus the Bills. The game, the game of games, and there was a lot of them, was certainly one that we were waiting on, and it was the Broncos versus the Bills. It kind of ended up becoming once the Bills won, it kind of ended up being, okay, is it going to be the Bills? Is it going to be the Chargers? And I think by process of elimination, even before that game on Sunday Night Football, it was going to end up being the Bills. So I think just kind of leading off a little bit as far as this Broncos and Bills game, for me at least, and look, I say this at least as a Broncos fan, Cam Newton is not Superman. He's Bizarro Superman. The real Superman is Josh Allen. And I think that it's one where you look at strictly at the game between the Bills and the Jags. They were beat up. I mean, they were physically beat up across the board, both offensively and defensively. And it pretty clearly affected that game from start to finish. They won, but it was like you went like 15 rounds with Muhammad Ali and you won. Not saying the Jags are like the best team in the NFC. They certainly were one of them. But it was like you went 15 rounds with like one of the best fighters, in a boxing match, and you just came out bloodied and bruised, and yet you still came away with the victory. So, anybody want to chime in? Brandon? Yeah, no, you're taking a sip of water. I see. Jordan.
Yeah, go for it. Went down the wrong way.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, just going into that and then leading into this, it's going to be a difficult game, like in general. You good there, Brandon?
I'm good now.
Yeah, no, it's going to be difficult. The going quickly on that Bills Jaguars game, the fact that, and I just have to get this out of my chest because it just came to my mind right now. The Jags were walking into that game with the small market T-shirts thing, and that
Small market big boys.
I mean, I had to get that off my chest. I know we're talking about Josh Allen and all this, and talking about that game and transitioning to wars, but I mean that. What are we doing? Are we still serious? Like, I wanted to briefly mention that. Like, are we kidding me?
It is one of the worst war cries I have ever heard in my life. Look, there's things that can be true. It's players, coaches. We've said it. They during Jacksonville week, they can take things and twist it for bulletin board material. It even happened in the New York Giants game. This isn't the first time it happened with the Broncos, of twisting a compliment and then making it seem like it's bulletin board material, where Sean Payton makes a compliment saying they're a small market team and a good team. Apparently that went in one ear and out the other. And it ended up becoming bulletin board material.
I mean, look, props to Liam Cohen for, getting this team to buy into something. And that was just, easy cannon fodder for them to latch on to. The thing that gets me, and that's so funny, is all the Jaguars fans that also latched onto that comment and then also come back and complain all the time about why no one talks about them. And I'm like, gee, I wonder if it's because you're a small market team. I digress, but yeah, that was an interesting game. I definitely thought the Jags were going to win that one, but Trevor Lawrence kind of just unfortunately turned into, like, I hesitate to say vintage Trevor Lawrence, because
I was going to say
Trevor Lawrence right now, and by that I mean like he looks like Clemson Trevor Lawrence. He turned back into like
before Cohen,
the NFL Trevor Lawrence that we've seen for the past several years,
or at least before Cohen.
So that was funny to see, but yeah, I mean, kudos to them. They've had a great season. The Bills are going to be tough. That is not the team that I wanted to play. I wanted the Jaguars to win. I wanted the Chargers to win, primarily so that we could play that Chargers team in Denver. And
I don't know.
Justin Herbert might go the Andrew Luck path. I don't know, but yeah, the Bills are going to be tough. The one thing to me that just bugs me is the lack of J.K. Dobbins in this game, because I feel like if we had J.K. Dobbins in this game, it's a different game in every possible way. And right now, honestly, I think it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up, and I do think that there is a chance we could win, and I think there's a chance we could lose. But if we had J.K. Dobbins and had the run game that we had in the beginning of the year, I think the chance that we win is taking a significant bump. And it's just, I don't know. It's not been RJ Harvey so far. It's just not been the same player. He's just not kind of been that guy.
Well, he isn't. That's the way to probably say it.
Well, in terms of like that high impact running back that we desperately needed, he really hasn't really been that guy. I mean, he's made some plays. Like, don't get me wrong, he's made plays, but he hasn't been like that elite running back that we needed. And not even that J.K. Dobbins was elite, but he was like, let me back up. Consistent is the word. He has not been the consistent running back that we need. J.K. Dobbins was at least consistent. I would also love to have an elite running back. Don't get me wrong. Like, we do also need an elite running back, and I want one desperately. And I wanted Trevion Henderson. That didn't happen, but
that's not
I don't know. You know what? I'm hoping that he pieces it together, and maybe he goes out there and has an amazing game. But we need the running game to be on point for us to win. Like, that's full stop. That's where that's where it begins and ends is with the running game.
I
Yeah.
want to hear Maddie's thoughts here really quick.
Well, Jordan was about to say something. Go ahead, Jordan.
No, I was gonna say real quick, like speaking of the run game, and I'm sorry I derailed the show a little bit with that Jaguars thing. That just pisses me off. But going back to our game, I know there's been a lot about the running game, and this might sound a little crazy, but I'm actually kind of intrigued about the running game and some of the positive plays they might have because of one person being inserted into the offensive line. And I know that's crazy to say, but Alex Forsyth
Yep.
in the run game
With the
has
week
been
off.
great. So I'm very interested, and I am eager to see the execution when it comes to the running game against the Bills. We all know that they're a nickel defense, and they will run Tampa too. They're going to dare you to run the ball. I think now that it's the playoffs, Sean Payne's not going to play no funny games no more. This is it. He knows that this team can win it all. So I expect a vintage Sean Payton performance in terms of play calling, play design, and all that. I think we're done with all the vanilla stuff and done with all the shit that we've seen that's been inconsistent throughout the whole season. But just in terms of the running game, I am excited to see RJ Harvey and what he can do in this running game because I'm telling you, we are a different team when Forsyth is at center. It's just the truth.
Go ahead, man.
My perspective, while the running game for us is going to be important, not just for like winning short yardage, not just for like keeping balance. We got to sustain drives. We got to keep our defense off the field. Little nuggets about the 31-7 game from last year. Alec Anderson reported in as eligible 16 times in the game last year. They already, on the offensive line, if you match up, like likely who's going to be across from you, they average something like 18 more pounds of beef on their offensive line than we have on our defense. If they're willing to bring in that extra lineman because their receiving core is decimated, they're going to go heavy a lot. We're going to see 12 personnel all over the place. We might even see 2 tight ends with the additional linemen reported as eligible and get some funky combinations there. We're going to have to eat our Wheaties. We're going to have to make sure we're ready to go because, dude, they are coming. That's going to be their identity, is they're going to try to, and great, it's playoffs, Bills Mafia, they show out, like, for real. Love it. The thing that worries me a lot is that if they get to that, do we have the ability to stop them? And I don't know. I don't know that we can. We've proven that we can sustain drives on the other side. I think that, Sean's been working on some of those intentional 14-plus play drives to be able to, like, get some of those reps in. But the very first play that Alec Anderson reported as eligible was their 3rd play from scrimmage last year. And remember, we went right down the field and hit Franklin for that bomb touchdown and took a 7-0 lead. And they're like, that's cute. We're just going to line up and run it right through your face. And they brought in the additional lineman in, and they handled business. There is no reason for them to go to 4 wide receivers at any point this week.
Yeah.
They're going to go big. It's going to go big. It's going to be big often, and it's going to be a slugfest. So while they did just get battered in Jacksonville, make no mistake about it, they're bringing the fight to us in the trenches, at least on that side of the ball. And we got to be ready for that. That's my biggest concern of the week.
The one thing I will just say about that real quick is it's twofold. Is because of those injuries, they are tipping their hand about their offense and their offensive mentality going into this game. Because they are going to that heavy personnel. Like they are very obviously going to that heavy personnel, whether it worked last year or not, because of everything that they've transpired of having 3 legitimate wide receivers that are healthy, with 2 tight ends that they're probably, because of this heavy package, is going to rolling into that lineup, and then obviously some, linemen that are eligible, they're going to be in that heavy personnel for a vast majority of the game. The other thing I'll want to mention here too is there's an aspect of the Buffalo Bills offense that is also very much in the Denver Broncos offense. And that is the Buffalo Bills are probably the second or first best screen offense in the National Football League. And that is mostly because of Khalil Shakir, who's really, really good. Who's really, really good. But if you are running a screen offense against another team who faces that nearly every single day in practice, or they've seen it, that's a recipe for disaster for an offense. So frankly, to me, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens both on that defensive side of the ball and even on the offensive side of the ball. We talk about the adjustments that the offense needs to make, right? Like that the offense needs to make. I would argue that the defense may need to make a little bit of a tweak on the defensive front, just so that they can be able to handle the big hog mollies of that Bills offensive line. Brandon, Jordan.
Yeah, that's going to definitely be, I think, one of the keys to this game. For me is like, what are we able to do in the trenches? We're going to have to, it's hard for me to fully trust the secondary from what we've seen. And it's weird for me to say that. I don't know if it's something about like the way that Vance is calling the defense that has just been figured out. But I think if we are going to have any form of success, it's going to be on the defensive line to get pressure quickly, get sacks if you can, but at the very least, pressure Josh Allen as much as you can. I mean, he's going to be Josh Allen and probably make some crazy runs that you just kind of can't stop because that's who he is.
It just is what it is, Joe.
You need to do everything you possibly can to try to get him to hurry up. Now, in this case, it could be a little different just because the Bills don't really have good weapons. I mean, in general, and they lost Shavers. Well, they did, but they lost Shavers. He has an ACL tear. They lost Josh Palmer, I think, is also on IR. Gabe Davis, they lost. I think they have like 3 wide receivers right now.
There's only one wide receiver coming back, and that's Curtis Samuel.
Yeah,
and even then, I want to make this perfectly clear. And the argument is the same for Greenlaw, but Curtis Samuel's coming back, but he's probably going to end up being on a pitch count because he's coming back. I would very much doubt the fact that they're going to, bring him back, activate him off of. And Ed Oliver is the same way, by the way. And Ed Oliver is the same way. If he's going to play, I would expect him to be also on a snap count as well. So it's not like they're going to rush him in, and all of a sudden he's going to play 75% of the snaps, or Ed Oliver's going to end up playing, 65% of the snaps, which they need him to play 65% of the snaps because they have such a horrendous run defense.
Yeah, when it comes to go ahead, Brandon.
I was just going to agree with what Cameron said.
Yeah, I was going to just piggyback off of that, just the defense. Like, I understand the national media is telling everybody right now that the defense for the Broncos is one of a kind and they're really good and all that, but they ended the season poorly. And if it wasn't for Bo and what he had to do offensively, we wouldn't have the 1 seed right now. So the defense, I'm very skeptical going into this game about how the defense is going to perform. I understand Josh Allen is one of one, quite literally. I know he's going to put up his numbers and have his type of game, but this defense is a lot better than last year's. And if they don't show out in this game, it's going to be hard to win. So if Vance Joseph and that unit doesn't get aligned like how they were earlier in the season, it's going to be a shootout. And then that's going to be another game where we're going to have to rely on Bo. And there's nothing wrong about relying on Bo, but his margin of error is so slim due to what's around him offensively. So that's where we need the defense to really step it up.
I have a question for y'all defensively, like on a schematic standpoint. Typically, right, when you play against a mobile quarterback, man coverage is no bueno, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to set up your defenders turning their back to the quarterback that could be running behind them. But typically, if you have the advantage in the secondary, you can man up and lock down weapons. You tend to open up vulnerabilities against subpar talent when you run zone because they could find weaknesses in those zones. And when a quarterback moves, some of those pockets change. Maybe your quarterback spy gets a little weird. They got a couple of tight ends that can do some damage. Like, what do you think one is going to be our base? And then, like, how do you think BJ is even going to address this? Especially, like, he may say that coaching is on the back burner, but, like, dude, it's just natural that he'd be a little distracted this week with people lighting up his phone. So, like, what do you guys think the defense actually is going to look like? Like, how are we going to come out in this thing?
I mean, quickly, just for me, I think Vance is not going to go away from his man-to-man, defense and his principles of just running basic cover one robber and stuff like that. When it comes to the QB spy, listen, we're going to have a QB spy whenever we go man coverage. If we don't, then we're going to be in big trouble. I am just wondering who is going to be that QB spy because we've seen Benito be that. And, he does a good job being a QB spy, but we also need him rushing the passer as well. So are we really going to trust Alex Singleton being the QB spy? I mean, are we going to trust a guy coming off an injury and Dre Greenlaw being that QB spy, which is probably the likely answer? It's going to be interesting how Vance tweaks that dynamic. I don't see him going away from the man coverage stuff because at the end of the day, our guys are just better than theirs when it comes to the secondary versus their receivers. And you got to take advantage of that. But I thought that the Jags did a decent job with them, but we'll see how Vance plays it. I'm pretty sure Sean Payne's going to have a lot of say also in the defense for Saturday.
Brandon.
I would agree. I think he's going to stick with his cover one single high safety looks. And I think another big reason I think he's going to stick with that is because I don't know if he's going to fully trust utilizing PJ Locke as much as he might need to if he's not going to run that kind of defense. And we all saw what happened with PJ Locke against them last year in the playoffs, where he just kind of got entirely burned. Not having Brandon Jones absolutely just sucks in every way possible. And I think he's just going to try to limit that. I mean, you can't just play cover one and play man all the time against them. I think you're also going to see probably a little bit of that psychopath VJ come out and run some like cover zero and like some corner blitzes and stuff, which would be fun. I think he's got to mix it up, but I would agree with what Jordan said. I think you're probably going to see some of the similar looks that he's been doing, but maybe try to disguise it a little bit. I think really he's going to try to lean on Hufanga and try not to utilize PJ Locke as much as possible, which sucks. Not that PJ Locke's a bad player, but he's just also not as good as Brandon Jones in any way, really, and definitely not as good as Hufanga. So,
well, it's the same confirmation we had last year, which was he's a good player. It's just there's a reason why he's been a role player and not a starter, and the reason why they brought in Hufanga in and even Brandon Jones in to really upgrade that safety room. I have two words for how they can probably attack this offense, and because of the fact that they are tipping their hand a little bit as far as the offensive game plan. And I think it's going to significantly help in terms of the run defense and everything else. And will it afford you to kind of be a little bit susceptible to some big plays? Possibly. But I think that, given the state of the Bills' weapons, which are pretty depleted a little bit, right? Cage rush. I think that cage rush is going to be a big thing when it comes to stopping specifically their top two playmakers in James Cook and Josh Allen. Obviously, Houston did it, and it majorly bothered Allen for a vast majority of the game. Houston, I would argue, still has a little bit of a better defense than the Denver Broncos. Broncos do have a good defense, but Houston is undoubtedly the better defense, and they did that against Josh Allen, and they made his life miserable in that entire game. And what is something? Look, I'm not here to say, yeah, they played Chris Oladuke and they played Trey Lance. Yeah, I get it. But what did they do when they played Trey Lance and they played Chris Oladuke? They did the cage rush. And Vance was starting to talk more and more and more about the possibility of the cage rush in this defense. And if there's one thing I know in terms of people and specifically a defense, an aggressive defense, that I think if you were to ask the Broncos specifically about them, they would probably prefer to play a little bit more of an aggressive style. And I would say that the cage rush style defense is more so affecting them in a much better way than hurting them, than actually playing passive, this entire time.
Yeah, just off of last week, the Jaguars only played man coverage 18% of the time against the Bills. The rest of the time was zone, and mostly cover 3 and a bit of some cover 4 being the most actually they ran. So I'm guaranteeing you that the Bills are going to be seeing a lot more than 18% of man coverage against us. And I think they should. Again, I mentioned it. Bills receivers aren't that good, especially with the injuries. It just is what it is. It sucks for them, but we have to take advantage of it. And right now, our guys against theirs, I like that matchup a ton. I think if we go zone for the majority of the game, I think in some aspects we're baiting them out. But again, you got to keep Josh Allen in that pocket.
And what do? You do the cage rush to keep him in the pocket.
Correct.
And so it's one of the reasons why I think that, yeah, it was conservative to a degree and vanilla in that maybe that Chargers game, but being forced to play the cage rush the last couple weeks or last 3 weeks, I think has been a little bit beneficial to kind of set them up for the idea of playing Josh. I don't know whether I'm not saying that's going to be a definitive win or a definitive loss, but I'm just saying from a strictly matchup perspective, I'm very curious to see how he divvies it up, because I think there's a very interesting possibility where we won't see it all the time, but on specific downs, third downs, maybe even rush downs, I would venture to guess we're actually going to be seeing a lot of that.
Yep.
Moving on to the offensive side of the ball, I think we can all agree that the Bills have the worst rush defense out of any team in the playoffs right now. And, Brandon, you touched on the loss of J.K. Dobbins, and it sucks. I mean, the loss of J.K. does suck. But I'm very curious about a certain angle to where I'm curious about the impact Jaleel McLaughlin might make. Because I'm a big RJ Harvey fan, but we also know fresh legs. And if there is a player probably in that room who has a little bit more fresh legs as of late in the last, half the season, it's been Jaleel. And he's had a lot of fight these last handful of games, and it's pretty evident that's been showing in games as well.
Yeah, I mean, coming off of this extended break, I think they all have fresh legs. But I do agree, and I talked about this last week, that I think Jaleel is kind of one of the bigger X factors. Jaleel and Bo's legs are the two biggest X factors.
Bo's probably number one.
That you're going to have in this game. And to have a semblance of a running game, and this is just ridiculous that we have to do this, but your quarterback is going to have to be your running back. And sprinkle Jaleel and RJ in. You might need to use RJ around the goal line more, because I think with Jaleel, because he's so quick, he's the kind of guy that can hit the hole quickly and make them pay, because they're not that good at stopping the run. So I do think that is definitely going to be interesting, and I think you're going to need to see that be a big focus. I wish that we had J.K. Dobbins so badly because I think that would make an absolutely huge difference. But I do think Jaleel is going to be the X factor.
Or
And
one
just
of
how
the
much are we
multiple.
going to how much are we going to run Bo? Like that's what it's going to come down to. It'll be interesting.
Well, we did run Bo quite a bit the last 2 weeks of the season
Mm-hmm.
against, especially against, the Chargers, where we should have really manhandled them. And of course, the Chiefs, game was ugly, but, we ran him quite a bit too. We're certainly not holding anything back with using Bo's legs.
Not the last couple of games, at least.
If we gotta make it happen. I think he ran for over 40 in each of those last 2 games. So we've shown that can be a bigger component of our game plan. But again, it was also really vanilla. So we'll see what happens. We were obviously also highly inefficient running the ball with our running backs in those games too. So we'll see. But I absolutely believe that we'll start to see, because a lot of those runs, a couple of them were design runs, but quite a few of them were breakdown runs. We're going to see some design stuff to get 10 out in space. We might see that run we saw at the end of the game against the Giants. That might make a comeback somewhere.
Philly game, Houston game.
So I think that'll be a big proponent of us. So you mentioned Jaleel. Does 28 get touches? Please, for the love of God, no.
I will say yes, just because Sean Payton can't ignore it. I'll just say that Sean Payton can't ignore it.
I'm not trying to be rude, but I don't think Tyler Bidet will get touches for the Miami Hurricanes right now in the national championship.
Frankly, I would say that Shamar Brown, who's with the Miami Hurricanes, would be having more carries than Tyler Bidet.
With all due respect.
Yeah. No, it's just Sean is a bit stubborn in how he handles things. And, obviously Tyler Bidet is the 2-minute warning, if you will, the 2-minute offense type of running back. But I don't see why it necessarily has to be that case, But I'm kind of, with you, Maddie. And, this is something, Brandon and Jordan, when we talked about it after that Packers game, it's really kind of what makes this Broncos offense so dynamic, because one of the reasons why we kind of compared them a little bit to the Eagles is, when they're red hot with Bo throwing through the air, but specifically his legs like this, they're a very frightening team. Because if you do use the legs of Bo, it just takes that ceiling, or maybe not even just the legs of Bo from the running, just him running side of things, him running and utilizing the offense on bootlegs and stuff like that. And so I think if you're Sean, Brandon, you specifically have to be looking at this from the perfect offense that is going to be set up for you, of everything Jordan has basically yelled from the rooftops from, which is under center, control that clock, you run the ball, you utilize his legs off of play action, and when you're in the red zone, you punch that dang thing in when it's the red zone. This team is, if there's one thing you can say about the regular season, they've been a 20-20 team. They've been a 20-20 team when it comes in, in terms of moving the ball. They can. It's just in that red zone, they got to be able to punch it in consistently and not have field goals.
Yeah, I do think you're going to have to leverage as much size as you can in the red zone against this team. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think Maxwell Hairston is also injured for the Bills in the secondary. They have a lot of injuries going on.
He might be back, but even then,
yeah. I think, you know what I really want to see? I want to see Evan Ingram utilized in the red zone. That's going to be a big factor. Other than RJ Harvey and Jaleel and Bo running it in the end zone, that's all great. Cortland Sutton, I still love him. I just don't. It's weird right now. I think you got to use Evan Ingram more in the red zone, honestly, more than you've used him in the past. And you gotta, yeah, I agree. You gotta. I think the red zone and the line of scrimmage is what it's going to be like the tipping point for this game. It's like what you're able to do at the line of scrimmage to open some holes for some running backs that hopefully can hit those holes more Jaleel, I think, right now with that. And then can we hit Josh Allen or slow him down? And then when you get into the red zone, you gotta get 7. And then when they get into the red zone, you got to do whatever you possibly can to stop them. And we're still such a great red zone defense. Obviously, against Josh Allen, it almost doesn't matter because everyone in this podcast right now saw him go for a sneak that turned into a 15-yard touchdown.
I've never seen that, except for maybe a video game. I've never seen that.
The only thing I think of is maybe the Jags were trying to give it up and just let them score because that was kind of the only option that they had. But that was insane. So I think that's going to definitely be the key. It might still not matter, but that's going to be the key. That and this being at home and the Bills not knowing what playoff mile-high football feels like.
The only one that would know
I
is
just
Josh
wish it was
Allen.
colder, but it's not going to be because to the chagrin of everyone that doesn't live in Denver, it is 65 or higher.
The one player I want to see be utilized in the offense is the guy that is the most dynamic with the ball in his hands.
Number 19.
I mean, it's not that difficult. It's not that hard. I'm sorry, I don't want to sound like a jackass or a smartass, but it's hard to put into words how Marvin Mims Jr. was not utilized the whole entire season. And we honestly don't know if he's going to be utilized on Saturday. So, listen, with the amount of help we need in the playmaking department, we have a guy that can do it. And listen, I've heard all the it's excuses at this point of, route running and all that. I've seen him do it before. It's not like he forgot how to do it. Just get the ball in his hands, even if it's on these screen passes at this point, because, just get him the ball. The ball just needs to be in his hands. But, yeah, it's frustrating. And on Saturday, if he's not getting at least 5 touches minimum, I'm literally minimum, and that's a lot in a Champagne offense because he loves to give it to everybody. Because, if Adam Prentice doesn't get his 2 touches on Saturday, the world's going to end. But Marvin Mims should at least be getting 5 touches on Saturday. On offense, not punt returns. Talking about on offense.
Yeah. Maddie?
I also think he needs to have one as a punt return. That needs to
Brandon.
for this to be more of a fighting chance. Go ahead, Maddie.
I was going to say my bold take is that Mims houses one and special teams. He's like, you know what? Screw you guys. Screw you guys. You're not going to give me the bad offense. I did on special teams. And he'll just house one there. So the Bills, in special teams, they had 54 punts. 23 of those were returned. So, decent amount. That means that they're not getting fair caught. That means they're not kicking out of bounds or, touchbacks. It's going to be important. Maybe that air is a little thinner. The ball carries a little further, gives Mims a chance to actually return one. Yeah, I could see that. Whenever we got to have one, Mims seems to always make that play happen. So, yeah.
I'm going to bring this hot take back. Sorry, real quick. I'm going to bring this back as long as we're doing hot takes. Until this happens, Hufanga's going to get an interception.
It'll be a movie. If he gets that interception.
Was it Little Giants when the dude put the sticky on his hands?
He did, yeah.
Maybe Hufanga needs some of that.
Well, it's also the replacements.
No. You know what's hysterical about that Guess what his name was in the replacements?
Franklin.
Wait, I can't remember. Oh my gosh, it was Franklin. Oh my gosh. I gotta watch that movie again.
Because it's funny. Steven brought that up this week, but I've thought about that because I was watching that like a couple weeks ago, or if not a month ago, and I heard Franklin, and I was like, oh, I might need to clip this for whenever we have some.
It actually gets deep. It gets better than that because I'll love Detroit Franklin because he's been much better this season. But if I remember correctly, Franklin in the replacements is the
Had
guy that
dropfish.
can outrun everyone and runs crazy routes and gets open, but can't catch anything.
And he has drop
Sorry,
issues. Yeah.
Troy Franklin. But that was what we watched last year. You've
Yeah.
been much better. If you
But-
listen to this podcast, which you probably don't,
Yeah.
you've been much better.
All I'm hearing is that Will Lutz needs to smoke a cigarette on the field. That's all I'm hearing.
Well, the good news is
That would be amazing.
The good news is that the Broncos are a little bit of a better team. And if we're on the topic of playmakers, yeah, we talk specifically from the standpoint of like Evan Ingram, RJ Harvey, Marvin Mims. The beautiful thing, and obviously we know we've mentioned before about like how the Broncos need a wide receiver one, and I'm not here to dispute that, argue that, whatever. But the one thing you can still say though about this team and what makes them in a way dangerous is they do have the playmakers, right? Like Sean has the playmakers, or at least to be able to do something. And I think what makes me so intrigued about Evan Ingram specifically, and Bo's legs to a degree, is the Buffalo Bills are going to be in a fair amount of zone, and if there's an opportunity specifically for Evan Ingram, not just in the red zone, to be a really key piece in moving things down the field from the 20s to the 20s, it's those middle of the field possible seam routes that you could be able to hit with Evan Ingram, that I think is going to be a pretty fascinating opportunity that could really take that offense and make it a little bit more explosive, for a team. So, I mean, I'm very curious about it because I think that Evan Ingram or frankly, even the two jokers really, is going to be the one where I would be also looking at, because we talked about RJ Harvey, and he's been a bit of a roller coaster ride as it comes to this year. But one thing I would specifically look at between RJ Harvey and Marvin Mims, don't be surprised if they use Marvin Mims and RJ Harvey in the exact same backfield, and we get a little bit creative, and you see the opportunities for maybe a Marvin Mims angle route out of the backfield, and RJ Harvey type angle route, because anything that's going to be able to create a lot of space for you in a zone is one of the best zone beaters, if you will, of finding soft spots in zones. So I'm really hoping that they can be able to really exploit that a little bit more. So I am very curious to see how the Broncos can handle this, because there's no doubt they can.
Can we please get an angle route when Mims is streaking to the flat before the play starts? Because for 4 straight weeks, we've gotten him laid out, throwing the ball out to him off that motion. Like, it's the easiest thing in the world to see. They all shift that way. If they're going this way and he zigs while they're zagging, that could open some things up underneath and get him free on the back end. It's just like, it's been telegraphed and telegraphed and telegraphed. I need to see a wrinkle off of that. Because it's like, oh, well, we gave him the ball, but it's like, yeah, it's coming. We got 2 receivers on this side and we're bringing 19 over. Wonder what's going to happen now. And then they fire the gap and it's done. So I got to see him in space. Why don't we use him more in the middle of the field? Why does it always have to be outside the numbers?
Right. So I'm very curious about it, because there's no doubt it can be done. So obviously we touched a little bit on it in terms of, X factors with some players. But, we'll probably lead that off by saying, Jaleel McLaughlin is probably on a really short list when it comes to X factors. Who else would you kind of throw into that mix? That's probably not anyone that we've been talking about, or in essence, I should say, like an unsung hero for this game.
I briefly mentioned them, but Forsyth has to be.
I could see that. Because it's funny, Brandon. Like when we were talking about the game against the Chargers, there were a lot of factors going into that. The offensive line wasn't great. The Chargers defensive line really manhandled us. But if you look kind of like at the game, the offensive line just was all out of whack when you look specifically from some of that injury standpoint. Forsyth went down. Mustipher comes in. When Mustipher comes in, it was like a whole new offensive line when Mustipher came in. Then it really went, basically by the wayside, if you will, and just all emotion was out of it when Bulls went down. And then obviously everybody came back, but it still wasn't the same because by that point, Jesse Minter was teeing off with his, backups on that offensive line. So, so I think it's interesting because, like, to what Jordan was talking about, like Forsyth, he's at least been a pretty decent road grader since coming in.
I do think one of the unsung heroes, maybe not unsung heroes, because I think it would be more. I think he could have an impact that could be pretty visible and easy to spot, but just is a little bit of a surprise because he hasn't necessarily had the role that you expected going into this season. But it could be Jahdae Barron. I think Jahdae Barron could play more snaps than we're used to seeing him play in this defense as more of that like run stopper in nickel. And that wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, maybe if they try to even play him a little bit.
Tight end eraser.
Excuse me. Tight end eraser, but also like as that star player or play him even a little bit at safety.
They play him everywhere. I want people to reinforce that. Like they play him everywhere.
Yeah. I do think because he's also like been pretty good both in man and in zone. I do think like it could be almost a little bit of like a coming out party for him in terms of just the impact that you see him have on the field. I could be wrong, but just in terms of like specifically him as a run blocker or a run stuffer, I think that's could be interesting. One thing that like kind of did concern me a little bit when we drafted him and has continued to be are we utilizing him to the fullest extent? Concern that I've had is Vance Joseph, those guys that don't have a defined role on the defense, Vance just doesn't seem to know what to do with. And that was the case. It's been the case with I know he's been injured, but even like when he was healthy, Drew Sanders like kind of came in as this super athletic linebacker is like going to play a bunch of different roles. And it's like, we don't know what we're going to do with him. So he doesn't really do much. Barron kind of slotted into that. And then Isaiah Simmons, who the Cardinals took.
Zaven Collins
with the Cardinals. Zaven Collins as well. Like that drafted as that like super athletic, versatile Swiss Army knife. That the problem with those kind of players, it's just like, well, they don't have a role. Like they could do so many things, but what are they going to do? You don't know what they're going to do, and figuring out how to get them to be a part of like your defensive plan just doesn't seem to be a strength of his. And I do wonder if that's limited what we would have maybe seen from Barron this season. Not to take anything away from Van. I think he's done a good job until his defense did kind of fall apart, unfortunately, after the bye week. But Pat Bryant was actually the guy I was going to say as well. But I do think, it could be more of a Jahdae Barron impact game than you would maybe think about going into the game.
they each get a pick. I mean, that comment was damn.
You think Josh Allen's throwing 3 picks? I mean, I'd love it.
He wins some money. He wins some money.
If that happens, I don't know. Broncos might actually win by 10 points or more if that happens.
I've got somebody.
All right, Manny.
They played a lot more of the last 3 weeks, become a bigger part of our team. One guy that I'm betting on to have a decent role was Enrique. See what I did there? So sorry.
He bet on himself.
The thing is, though, he's our biggest guy. He's the most beef that we could possibly add. Put him on the edge. Not edge, but he's defensive end. We'll be able to. They bring in an additional lineman. How are we going to respond to that? We're going to bring him in, and he's going to be able to help hold that point of attack. Gotten some tackles, got a sack last game. Certainly getting more involved into the rotation. He's our biggest answer for when they go big. He's our best answer potentially for being able to hold that point in the trenches when they decide to go big, which will help free up some of these other guys on the back end to go make a play to hit their gaps. So Wazirike, he tends to be forgotten about.
Yeah.
We don't really mention him. We'll mention Cooper. We'll mention Ellis. We'll mention all these other guys. Wazirike, man, like this is the game. This is the moment for him to carve out a role specifically, for his skill set. So if VJ doesn't use him as a counter, as the Uno reverse card, if you will, then like there's not a role in a VJ defense for Wazirike moving forward. This is what he's on the team for.
No, I appreciate that big text. That really means a lot, man. We'll see. I saw your 32 to 20. We'll see if that happens. I'm really curious because when you think of unsung heroes, you think of, people that really haven't contributed much or, really have battled demons themselves in the regular season, and the opportunity arose where they made a play. And it's hard to say whether or not this guy would end up being an unsung hero, but it would also be fitting stylistically as a defense and everything for it to set up this way based on his size, measurables, everything that he could possibly bring to this, and that is Drew Sanders.
Does he get any burn on Saturday, though?
I don't know. I think it's very weird that the Broncos activated his win because he wasn't on anyone's radar screen. Anyone's. He wasn't on anyone's radar screen. And then out of the clear blue 1 week ago, they activated his window. And obviously, they need to make sure that, he ends up coming back. So if he doesn't play, it's a moot point. But just from the standpoint of you have a 6'5" quarterback, and you have Sanders, who's a very athletic specimen at linebacker. I mean, there's some ebbs and flows of him not playing, and there could be a little bit of some rust. But that is going to be a very interesting piece if, in fact, he does. If he does, in fact, play, because he would be probably your ultimate weapon, in terms of possibly spying. If you're not going to use Nick Benito, like he would be your ultimate weapon possibly for spying Josh Allen, using him as the one that could be your QB chaser, that sort of thing. So I don't know. Drew Sanders is at least the name that's on a rather short list for me. That could be an unsung hero.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Like how you said, he wasn't on my radar at all. Like, I'm not trying to be an ass, but like I kind of like forgot about him because
all of us did, Jordan. So
Yeah,
it's-
he's just been so banged up. So like, I just kind of like kicked that on to like next year, and what we're gonna do with him.
but you guys
but-
can't tell me that was random. Like it was the most random. Like, none of us saw it coming, and all of a sudden
It was a pleasant surprise to say the least.
then all of a sudden they designated his return. It was just like, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so he's at least one of them. And then probably on the offensive side of the ball, it's funny. We were kind of mocking it a little bit and stuff. Watch it be a Tyler Bidet game. No,
I'll take it. I won't be mad.
No, I know, but it's just like it. But that's the kind of thing, right? Like for the Avs when they won the Stanley Cup, it was Josh Manson, right? Like getting some goals here and there, or what was it, Jordan, for like the Celtics? It was Highsmith, right? Like showing up, some key moments for like when the Celtics won. I'm not even gonna talk about the Thunder. Screw the Thunder. But like, but also because the Thunder like so ridiculously deep. But it's okay. They're so deep they can't even be the San Antonio Spurs.
They just beat them yesterday, though.
No. They're still 1 and was it 3, 2?
3.
It's okay, Maddie. You could talk. I swear you could talk.
Just show him one of these, Maddie. Just show him one of these.
It's okay.
Hey, that's old news, bro. Why are you bringing up old stuff?
We cherish it.
As you should. Mr. Quesarito himself.
No, but it goes to show you just how like you have people that are unsung heroes that can be impactful for for a team that you just really someone shout out Big Tex, by the way. He threw out Bandy. Bandy I think is still on the practice squad, I think, or he might be on the 53-man roster. But what was one of the few games we saw him just randomly appear, for a big moment? Houston, right? And then you really didn't hear his name. And then all of a sudden in that Packers game, he has his first touchdown in 4 years. So I don't know. It's gonna be a fun thing. Is there something about this Bronco Bills game that we've not talked about or touched on that you guys feel like you want to get off your chest a little bit?
I like Josh Allen. He's fun. I don't like Josh Allen, and he's not fun when we're playing them. But absolutely, I will be on the side of Bills Mafia if they move forward. It will hurt. I may not watch the AFC Championship game. I might have to sit that one out. But man, like, this was the one team, I'll admit, this was the one team, you guys can see it in the chat. PO, the one team I wanted to avoid the most. There were 3 teams that I was not super excited about. Buffalo was right there. So
goes to show how open the AFC is, though, for us to have at least some different opinions.
Yeah. And you know what? Watch us win against Buffalo and then get Houston next week, which is the second team that I wanted to avoid. That's still left.
Maybe the thing we probably should ask, because the way I would say it this way is Buffalo was the best team they could possibly face from you look at where they were in last year to now, was probably the best team they could probably face to maybe have confirmation themselves for how far have we come as a team. They've already surpassed expectations, in my opinion. I can't speak for you guys, but this team has already surpassed expectations. But how far have they come from where that playoff opportunity was in Buffalo till now at home at Mile High, facing that exact same opponent? So that it kind of leads myself into maybe the last thing probably that we need to talk about, which is experience. Because I think that the experience they gained from that game in Buffalo will very much matter for this Broncos team because, for the most part, relatively speaking, not a lot has changed with this team. They've added a few significant pieces of the defense, some offensive pieces, but for the most part, this team has been relatively the same, and the Bills, specifically for the most part, have been relatively the same. So how much are you guys, when you guys look at this game, how much of a big factor do you guys think experience really is?
I mean, experience is a big factor.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brendan.
No, I was just gonna say I think it's definitely a bigger factor than I think some people give it credit for. And obviously we have a young team and we have a young quarterback who this is only going to be a second playoff game. And obviously the more experience that he can get, the better. And I'm happy that he's getting that experience. I hate that it continues to be against the Buffalo Bills. But I think it is going to be unfortunately a big factor. Unfortunately and fortunately, because we are again getting that experience, but it's a different beast.
Were you going to say something more, Jordan?
No, I kind of agree with Brendan. Like, experience matters. Like, whether it's NFL playoff football, college football playoffs. I mean, for example, like Indiana, despite them cheating a lot, like they do have a lot of experienced players on that roster. So, experience does matter. So, I do think it's great that last year we faced the same team and they got that experience, and now they can take that experience with them, especially now at home, with the fans on their side and stuff like that. So, I like the Broncos' chances in this one a lot.
Yeah.
Jordan preloading Monday. I see.
Not preloading.
Here's thought: run the football your first play from scrimmage. Don't throw the ball to the outside for some reason.
Flea flicker.
It is pretty wild how many pick sixes they have to start games. I think that experience does matter, but it matters less than matchups matter. The Bears had no experience, and they were down, and they were able to come back.
But
I thought one possession games and comebacks weren't sustainable. That's what I was being told. I thought blowouts were more sustainable.
And potentially the experience during the regular season matters more than what happened last year.
Yeah.
So I'm not discounting experience, because once you've been there, you know what to expect. That's what you've been working against, all off season, all season, to try to remedy some of those things. You mentioned screw the Thunder. Well, the Thunder were the 1 seed.
Oh yeah.
Maybe a year too early. They lost to the Mavericks.
You could argue you guys were
corner 3
years. Yeah.
They didn't know how to take the ball out of SGA's hands and give him a break and facilitate offense another way. They didn't know how to get a guy to get rebounds when they needed to close out possessions. They learned key metrics that allowed them, the following year to go and handle business. Experience does matter. Some of that is on what are we missing as far as a team building standpoint more than it is, a player standpoint. The matchups now are what matters more than the experience from last year, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. So getting into the score of the game, what is going to make us all feel like this?
A curse all episode. Fair warning. Yeah. For people that are just...
What is going to make us rub that belly? What is going to make us rub that belly if it's going to end up being a Broncos win? You know what, Maddie? I will send it off to you since that guy looked really familiar in that video.
He was a little younger in that video. So is the question, what do we got to do to win, or what is our prediction?
Prediction. What is going to make us
a curse all episode? Fair warning. Yeah. For people that are just...
What is going to make us rub that belly?
I have bad vibes. However, the Broncos are going to win 27-24 with the Will Lutz walk-off.
in some ways, I almost wonder if that would be fitting for a Let's game-winning field goal. Given going into halftime, missing.
And the key is he's not going to need 2 tries to get it done.
Yeah.
Like another game that happened maybe potentially between these 2 teams.
Right. Brandon, what is for you that's going to make you
A curse
rub?
all episode. Fair warning. Yeah. For people that are just
What is going to make you rub that belly?
Any victory at all by the Broncos.
Cop out
I don't
answer.
care what the margin is, but I'll say that my prediction is 24-20.
24-20. Broncos, I assume.
24-20 Broncos. Yeah.
And Jordan, what is it going to be for you that is going to make you feel like this way?
I mean, what is going to make me feel like that is, I have the Broncos winning, so that's going to make me feel like that. But I have them winning in a bigger margin. I have them winning 28-20. I do think that we get a plethora of red zone stops. And I think whenever the Broncos do get into the red zone, I think we capitalize every single time. I think Sean Payne's going to be in his bag. Listen, if he goes off for 3 catches for 35 yards, I'll be more than happy with it. That's going to be something we need. So, but for the game, 28-20, I got Broncos winning, them getting a stop at the very end on Josh Allen going for it on 4th down. And that's going to lead into my Monday game.
If the Broncos score 28 points, he will sell his car. I assume it's a really valuable car, or a really bad car, depending on, I guess, how you'll be looking at it. Yeah, no, it'll, what's been a glorious season for me has been the Chiefs out of the playoffs and it being announced that they will no longer be an Arrowhead, in 2031. So, I mean, yeah, this has been a really glorious season for me, knowing the fact that you guys try and compete with the Broncos to try and one-up us in a stadium the same year we get our stadium. So, yeah, no, it's definitely been a very glorious year of the Chiefs missing the playoffs while also getting a new stadium. So, pretty great season for me,
Dude, they did not take a down year well. They had to leave the whole state after that year.
Yes, they did.
And of course, there's obviously the big Kansas and Missouri rivalry. So I'm sure this is going over quite well. And it's not just the Kansas versus Missouri sports rivalry. I mean, there's a Kansas and Missouri rivalry altogether. Yeah, I think the Broncos do come out with it. It's just hard to predict, it being a little bit of a tight game. I will say though, it has switched. I want to let people know, from everything that I can tell, the Broncos being the underdogs, I think if I'm not mistaken, it's switched now, where the Broncos are 1.5 point favorites. But I want to make the point, and Maddie, clarify me if I'm wrong on this, but typically, more often than not, when it's a 1.5 on those odds, they're basically telling you it's a toss-up. So yeah, the Broncos are favored now, but who's to tell you that we wake up tomorrow or it's 10 o'clock on Mountain Time and it ends up being back to 1.5 for Buffalo. So but that's the thing for me is it's just really kind of tells you 6-7. That kind of tells you
it doesn't swing 3 points that often, especially for who's the favorite. I think that things got overblown initially, and some smart money came in on the Broncos as a 1 seed home dog. And they're just trying to cover themselves. I think you can't really take a lot out of the spread right now. The baseline is 3 points for the home team before you take anything else into consideration. So essentially it is a pick 'em, but if you go by the full metrics, they're really saying that it's a 1.5 for the Bills all things being equal. Maybe things aren't all equal, which makes that difference. But yeah, I don't remember a game with no significant injury to like a quarterback, for instance, swinging this often. I mean, it's gone one way and
It's
then all the way
happened,
back to the
yes.
other. Yeah.
It's often. But of course, if there is one thing we can 100% say about the Broncos and this in any game, that there is always hope.
There's always hope.
There is always hope. I have them 23-20. Broncos over the Bills. Just it's gonna be a dogfight. I will actually be at the game. It'll be my very first ever NFL playoff game. I'm thankful that it's going to be in a Bronco playoff game. So I will make sure I cheer. I cannot make any promises that it will end up trumping the greatest fan experience I ever had, which was the fourth quarter of the Broncos versus Giants game, where I truly lost all my marbles in that fourth quarter. I almost broke my thumb. Truth be told, I almost broke my thumb because in that fourth quarter, I was just slapping the railing, of the stairs. And funny enough, there were like kids that were like going absolute bonkers the entire game. And in the fourth quarter, they were like very kind of like calm and collected, probably because the parents told them to really cool it down. And in the fourth quarter, I'm the one that loses it, and they're looking at me like I've completely lost my mind, And so like I look up, and then after the game, I told my dad, I was like, I almost broke my finger. So I'm hoping it's not like that. But I can't make any promises, and I cannot make any promises that I may or may not have a voice next week.
If you don't break your finger, I'm going to be disappointed in you, Cam. Like, you have to take one for the team this week.
I might be breaking a lot of things.
But I will be wearing what is it, the Bonix hoodie that just came in, the Don't Stop Believing hoodie from that Giants game. So I'll probably be wearing that to the game, considering it's going to be like in the 40s, not counting it's going to stay there. But like it's going to probably be in the 40s. It could be a pretty nice weather day, so it should be a lot of fun. And hopefully we're talking about a Denver Broncos postseason victory. Because again, as we said it, Brandon, Jordan, you guys weren't here just yet, because I was just going to say the last thing would just kind of like tie in on all of it is, if there's one thing that I love the most about this NFL playoffs this year, the Eagles are out now. So for the most part, aside if we're like really angry Patriots haters, if you will, we're going to end up having a brand new Super Bowl for the most part of attendees and people who have been in the Super Bowl. So it's going to be a really enjoyable Super Bowl, whether the Broncos are in there or not. And I have to obviously imagine that whoever wins this game, Broncos or Bills, that if it's Bills, I would say that probably a little more than 50% of Bronco fans will be pulling for Josh Allen and the Bills to get this done. So I'm excited. I am definitely excited.
I got the bubble guts already.
Already? You got what did we call it in the Slack chat? Anxiety poops?
That's real.
Yeah, it's a very real thing.
No, it was a big weekend for me.
Okay. In light of the circumstances, Jordan, we'll give our prediction, but in light of the circumstances, go ahead. Do the Miami Hurricanes beat the Team of Destiny?
I'm doing the game preview for this game, and I've done it for all the games this season, and no one believed me for the Texas A&M game when I predicted us to win. No one believed me in the Ohio State one when I said we were going to win, and did the Ole Miss one and nearly had the score. I was off by 3 points. I gave Ole Miss too much credit. Missed it by 3 points, and also named the game changer that changed the whole game, which was Keelan Marion. I am going to be doing the game preview for this one, and spoiler alert, I'm going to stick with what Nick Saban said, which is Mass kicks ass.
Okay. So what's the score?
I'm going to be picking Miami to win, and I do think they actually win. And I think they win 34-23.
Seems very objective. Very objective.
That
No.
alternate spread is going to hit different if you throw something down on that.
Listen, I believe
Is that an 18.5 point swing?
it would be. Yeah.
He's so confident.
If you do that and hit it, you can go to Santa Clara for free.
I might not be functioning to go to Santa Clara.
You'll have a few weeks.
All right. Since it's in vein of the natty, Brandon and Maddie, who do you guys have in the natty? Brandon?
I think if I say anything other than Miami, then Jordan might kill me. So
Maddie.
I'm gonna pull for. I mean, real talk. Indiana, great story. Cignetti is a stud. He's not going anywhere. That program's not going anywhere. I've bet against both of these teams in the playoff and kind of all season. For the sake of Jordan, I'm going to say 24-23 Canes.
Oh my God, I would cry at that stadium.
Well,
At the stadium or in the stadium? We haven't decided yet, right?
both.
I don't know. I might be around Miami just crying.
I will just say this, full disclosure. When it comes to bowl season, my dad and I have been operating a little bit differently when it comes to bowl season, which is bowl season is also a reflection of conference, which is, you want to make sure the Big Ten conference looks good and it's shown out to be a little bit of a dominating conference. And I think for the most part in the, in this bowl season, the Big Ten have shown that the Nebraska game didn't happen, by the way, against Utah. But they've been pretty dominating. The Big Ten has been pretty dominating. I say all of that. I hate Indiana. And it's not so much that I hate Indiana because I hate Indiana. I'm jealous of Indiana. So that jealous has turned to hate. And so because of that, I am pulling for Miami. And I think that unlike his unrelated or related brother, Kadarius Toney, I think that Malachi Toney ends up with the game winner. The game-winning touchdown. Look at Jordan. And it'll be around a minute remaining. And future overrated quarterback Fernando Mendoza tries to lead them down the field for one last Heisman moment.
And
Bain, molded by it, ends up with the interception.
Man, I wouldn't know what to do.
But I think that how you do, but this real talk, how Miami needs to do it is exactly the way they did Ohio State. You punch them in the mouth. And and you see how they respond. I mean, Indiana has clearly shown to not have, that they have a tendency to resolve really quickly, when being punched in the mouth. But you got to continue to punch them in the mouth. You can't just punch them in the mouth and then do the whole Carmelo Anthony act. You punch them in the face and run. You can't do that.
They haven't faced a ton of adversity either. I mean, they rallied against Penn State. But
you're talking Indiana.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm saying that, I mean, the formula, you're right. It is the same. If you hit them in the mouth early and you get up on them early, we haven't seen them operate in that way. They've been pretty loose and fancy free for most of the season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the formula is out there.
So, all right. So we'll see. But I am pulling for Miami, and I am rooting for Miami hard. So hopefully we all get what we want when it comes to the game. All right. With that being said, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. For the MHRT Network page. We are pushing, obviously, for 2,000 subscribers. It rolls over. It's like in work, and your PTO hours roll over. It rolls over. So we're going to be pushing for 2,000 subscribers in 2026. Make sure you follow the boys. Follow Maddie at Maddie Mills Pod. Follow Jordan at Jordan T. Lopez. Follow Brandon at Brandon Miller PO. By the way, to circle back real quick, the MHRT Network page is doing a subscription. YouTube is doing a subscription now. There are 3 different layers of the YouTube subscription. There's a $2.99, a $6.99, and a $12.99. Feel free to subscribe however it is that you feel. Thank you so much for that subscription. And thank you to Big Tex for that super chat earlier. That was really greatly appreciated. Also subscribe to the Mainly Broncos YouTube channel. We do a YouTube channel where this exact same show is being broadcasted on that YouTube channel as well. So make sure if you missed it on MHRT Network's YouTube channel, you can go and just find it on the Mainly Broncos YouTube channel, of course. We do go live stream on our Twitter handles. We gave them out earlier. Follow me, of course, at Cameron Parker PO. And without further ado, it is not going to be the last God bless Bo Nix of the regular season because the Broncos are going to win. So God bless Bo Nix.
Let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame miles.